What's up, guys? How you doing? It's TB, and we're here today to talk about My Hero Vigilantes Volume Number 2. Now, a lot of stuff happens in this volume, way more stuff than in the first volume, but that makes sense. The first one's, building up the world, introducing us to new characters and stuff like that, setting the premise, hinting at who the villain is and stuff like that. Now, we see the villain for this series, or at least for this arc, a lot more in volume 2 than in volume 1. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to butcher some Japanese name that I cannot properly pronounce, but we're going to call her Queen Bee because her quirk is called Queen Bee. She has bees that come in and out of her body that are producing, presumably, or at least carrying the legal quirk boosting drug Trigger, which conveniently is the drug that Knuckle Duster and his crew with the Crawler and Popsep are trying to find so they can put a stop to the illegal drugs, because basically Queen Bee is just going around making all of these instant villains, these villains that are just average everyday people. Maybe they got a chip on their shoulder, maybe they're misfits, maybe they're just rejects from society, people who look like if she gives them this drug, they'll take it and they'll use it and they'll just run them up. They'll cause a big scene. Basically, they're turning the people who they weren't with these villains. And like I said in the first video, in the very beginning of every single volume, there's a word and there's a definition for that word, and this one is villain. A character in a story or a play who opposes the hero, a deliberate scoundrel or criminal, one blamed for a particular evil or difficulty. And you can say that she is creating villains very effectively. We don't know exactly who she's working for or who she's working with at this point in time, but it's clear that she does like doing what she does. She calls herself a part-time villain because she's still in school. She's a high school student, but it's very cool that we get introduced to her and we get to interact with her, see her motivations and kind of who she is. She's really menacing. Like she really likes doing what she's doing. She plays her role very well. So I hope we get to see more of her, and we will get to see more of her soon. Basically what's going on with the trio right now is Popstep is still just hanging around, just chilling around. We get to find out more about her and her relationship with Koichi. I like calling him Koichi. It's kind of like I like calling Deku Midoriya in most of my videos. I don't really like calling him the Crawler, and apparently neither does anyone else, because they keep calling him the Crueler or the Nice Guy. They don't call him by his his new name that he gives himself. But he's training with Knuckle Duster. He's training his body because obviously Koichi's quirk is not the type of quirk that he can use to go up toe to toe against people, especially these instant villains. Whenever these instant villains show up, who do they depend on the most to get the job done? Knuckle Duster. He's the one with the firepower. It's like Koichi and Popstep sort of draw away the instant villain, whichever one it is for that day or that night, into a corner away from people, and then Knuckle Duster comes and beats the crap out of them and is like, where's the trigger? Like they're like Batman. Where's the drugs? Do you have the drugs? Where are they? So they're training so he can better use his quirk and come up with different sort of tactics, because if Knuckle Duster isn't around and it's just Popstep and Koichi, they're gonna get beat up. Like, these villains are no joke. Even without the quirk boosting drugs, I doubt that Koichi would have a good time. And speaking of Koichi, a little bit later, after they do what they do, because they're still looking for the person who's dealing Trigger, they're still training, or at least Koichi is training. Popstep is more just worried about doing her idol thing. Koichi runs into Ingenium. He actually runs into Ingenium. We get to see Ingenium do his thing because he has his own hero agency that he works with, Team Ida 10. But I think Koichi is just going for a morning jog, or he's on his way to school, and he just runs into he runs into Ingenium, Ida's brother, obviously. And he scouts him. He's like, yo, your quirk is actually really useful. It's the type of quirk that I would be interested in going into my agency once you get your hero license. And he's like, here's my card, hit me up, sometime. So that was cool. Like I said in the first volume, they do interact People in My Hero Vigilantes who are only in Vigilantes interact with some pro heroes that are from the mainline series of My Hero Academia. And Ingenium is one of them, so that was cool. We get to find out that Kazuho, Popstep, has a deeper connection to the Crawler than we thought. Apparently, when Koichi was going for his exam to go into school to get his license, he was delayed because he tried to save a little kid who was gonna drown in like a riverbank or something like that, and that kid ended up being Kazuho. He never knew, and I think to this day he still doesn't know because she's too, I guess, embarrassed to tell him the truth. But remember when I said he collects hoodies from All Might? He had all the hoodies except for one because he gave it away that day because the kid fell into the river and they were cold and he wanted to make sure that they got home safe and they were dry and stuff like that. So she has his hoodie. She was the person that he saved when he was younger that made him late, so he wasn't able to properly take his test so he could become a pro hero. And she felt bad for that, but we get to see that before he found out that she was Popstep, now that they're older, she already met him when he was younger, when he was a kid. That's cool. I was starting to wonder like how these characters are connected besides just their work in vigilanteism. So that's cool. We get to see a little bit more character depth with Popstep and the Crawler. That was cool. But even though there's so much stuff that goes on in this volume and I can't very well talk about every single little thing, my absolute favorite person in this volume isn't any of the three, Knuckle Duster, Popstep, or the Crawler, is this man right here, Stendhal. If you guys read this volume, you already know who Stendhal is. Stendhal is Stain. Stain from My Hero Academia. I believe it was season 2. Yeah, it wasn't season 3. It had to be season 2. It's very obvious that it's Stain. I'm gonna put up a couple pictures in the video just to reinforce the fact that it's Stain. But at the beginning, he's talking all about justice. He's using his quirk even though he doesn't have a license, and he gets into this fight with these guys, and after he's pulled up against a wall, he licks their blood, and I'm like, this is it, this is him. His tongue looks the same, the way he speaks is the same, and this is so cool because this is basically Stain's backstory. This is the man who he was before he became Stain. His name was Stendhal. You see, he's got the sword, he's got the daggers, the knives. He's just going around and legit just killing villains. He's not a vigilante in the sense like Popstep or Knuckle Duster. Even Knuckle Duster just roughs people up sometimes where it looks like they're knocked out or like they got permanent physical damage. But like Stendhal, he's going after people who are villains and just literally just killing them. He's like, I'm making sure that I do the good work. I gotta do my brand of justice. I gotta make sure I kill these villains who are messing up society. And let me just read some stuff real quick. That you have no conviction. Power wielded without conviction amounts to a crime. And when crime shapes the man underneath the mask, that is what we call a villain. The power of my blade. I will eradicate that crime. That is your very existence. This is the type of guy who we're dealing with. Let me read some more. I am judgment. I am Stendhal. He, Stendhal, has become more than human, the red of life, and the black of death. He is the one who cleaves that divide with a single slash. Judgment personified. And this is when he's talking to Queen Bee about like all the guys he's just killed, making sure that he knows where that she knows where he's coming from. And it's freaking great, man. And the last thing at the very end, when Stendhal is fighting against Koichi, Popstep, and Knuckle Duster because they're getting in his way, and he's evolved from I'm gonna kill people who are villains because they're messing with society to if you get in my way, you are just as bad as the villains and you need to die. Even an innate act of goodness becomes wicked in the aid of evil. Licking the opponent's blood paralyzes them. Quirk, blood curdle. Now who does that sound like? Those more sinful than villains, those who lack determination, yet still applaud themselves. Sham heroes. Yes, I see so clearly now. My mask, like my ignorance, has been stripped away. I am so very grateful for this lesson from an elder. This is after Knuckle Duster defeats him. And this is where Stendhal becomes Stain, and he basically gets the idea that the only thing that matters is his determination. His determination to do what he thinks is right and absolutely nothing else. And then he goes into this monologue about how the blood that he sheds on his body from his enemies will never disappear. And then he starts going into this metaphors about stains and blood and stuff like that. And it's like, it's just very cool that they were able to sort of like weave this person's story, which already existed in the main, content, into this. It's so cool. It's so cool. I was not expecting to see Stain before he was Stain in volume 2, but it's great. Also, it's a little bit late to be saying this, but when I go over these volumes, obviously I'm going to go over what I think is cool, and basically that means anything is fair game. Anything is fair game. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in volume 2. We see Koichi, he's really getting a hold of his quirk. It really is. I like to see him grow, not just in his character, but in his strength. Because he's not a brawler like Knuckle Duster is, and neither is Popstep, but Popstep always does her part. And Koichi, I feel like we're going to get to see him to become the hero that he wants to be, whether or not he gets his license. He may stay a vigilante for the rest of his life, or at least, an average citizen. But it's cool to see characters like Stendhal. Obviously, we know what happens to Stain if you watch the anime or if you read the manga, but it's so cool to see him. Alright, that's all I have to say about Volume 2. Volume 3 is coming out soon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon. Peace.